Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Chatsunami. I'm Satsunami and spin dashing into the sequel with me today is my very good friend and co-host Adam. Adam, welcome back.
Hello. Good to be back, and I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more living and a little bit more learning.
Well, that's all we can ask for.
The motto of Chatsunami.
Pretty much, yeah. But we've got it on our family motto, haven't we?
In fact, in Latin and all, because we're fancy.
Yes, that's true. I was going to say, have you been watching The World Is Not Enough recently?
Perhaps. Mayhap I have.
Yeah, I have to admit, I need to go back and rewatch it, but that is an episode for another day. We will do Pierce Brosnan month next month, okay?
He'll get his.
He will definitely get his time to shine, because we've been through Timothy Dalton, and we've been through Daniel Craig, so you know what? Yeah.
You're next, Brosnan. Better watch out.
I love the fact that we're starting off a Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review by threatening Pierce Brosnan.
I'm sure there's a connection there somewhere. I mean,
I was going to make a hedgehog joke, but I don't even know if he's got any relation. Okay, well, they sing in Sonic the Hedgehog and they sing in Mamma Mia. There you go.
Boom.
Sonic Boom, there's your connection.
Hey, see, it was all connected. See? And you just thought we were crazy.
Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, by that very weird tangent, today we're going to be talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 film, which honestly has been long in the marketing and it came out to pretty much commercial success. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's more than made its money back.
Oh, absolutely. And while the critics hate it, yeah, fans seem to love this film. I mean, have you seen the divide on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, I did see. I mean, you usually do get a quite noticeable divide between critics and kind of audience, but this one seems to be particularly divided.
Oh no, absolutely. It's like 97% versus like 60 odds. Yeah. I did have a laugh, I have to admit, reading some of the critics' takes on the film. And don't get me wrong, some of them are like genuine critiques saying it might have not lived up to the hype and everything. You think, okay, fair enough, but my god, some of the other takes were a little bit pretentious, and I don't want to spend this whole episode, pooping on those opinions. I'm going to get out of the way really quick, but you had some people saying things like, oh, Sonic has nowhere to go from now on. And I was like, oh boy, if you listen to our whole Sonic month, then you'll probably know that, yeah, he has a lot of places to go. I mean, have you seen reviews like that?
I've seen a couple. I was kind of skimming through a couple before we went on, and yeah, like, to be honest, it's kind of, if you asked me before the film came out and you said to me, right, Adam, predict what critics reviews will generally be, I probably would have put a lot of the things that people have said, professional critics have said about it. And yeah, fair enough. It's all just opinions at the end of it. As much as critics, it's just people's opinions at the end of the day. So some will work for some people, it won't work for others. So to all people's opinions. Just don't trust anybody's opinions. Make your own.
Except for Chatsunami's opinions, which
That's
are
true.
100%
We're the only valid one, I should say.
We are a valid news source. For legal reasons, that's a joke. We're not actually a news source.
Breaking news. Chatsunami has no idea what they're talking about.
I thought you were going to say, breaking news. Adam just finds out he's got a new job.
Breaking news. Pierce Brosnan confirmed as massive Sonic fan.
Oh, is he going to be in the third Sonic
He's
film?
going to voice. Do you not know that?
I'm going to edit out that particular character you just mentioned.
I just picked a character at random.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Totally well, I mean, now you're making it very obvious. Now, if anything, you're doing more damage than I did.
This interview's over. So sorry, what was that you were saying about Professor Gerald Robotnik?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Pierce Brosnan's going to play Professor Gerald Robotnik. That's what I meant. That's true.
Oh my god. I would love
what
that.
What piece of casting that would be, though?
He totally wouldn't, but oh my god.
I'd want that, or I'd want... Who's like the fanciest actor right now? Who's like like Anthony Hopkins or something like that? I'd love... I want somebody like that. Ben Kingsley. Just to come in and play Gerald Robotnik out of nowhere.
Let us pay homage to Ben Kingsley. For 5 minutes until he gets blown up in a space station.
Can't wait for that firing squad scene.
So, yeah, as you can tell, spoilers ahead. We actually had a conversation before this episode saying, right, we'll leave the intro kind of spoiler-free.
Yeah, it's okay. Gerald Robotnik makes a huge appearance. Okay, with the cat's out the bag.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they pay homage. There's a president in this. You know, the marketing was not very truthful in this. It was just a like mockumentary of Gerald Robotnik.
The president just went around with his hand camera, just filming. What did Gerald Robotnik mean to you? How did Gerald Robotnik affect your life?
Aren't you the president? Answer the question.
Talk to the camera. I'm not here.
So yeah, funny story. Before we go into like talking about what we thought of this film, before we dive into like what we loved about it, what we hated about it, I have a bit of a story to tell because I was actually going to see this film on opening day. Have I told you this? In fact, you'll know.
You were very excited. You were bragging. You were walking around with the swag, flashing the pre-order tickets.
Like, I kid you not, I ordered the tickets like I think maybe a week or two in advance, and I was like, oh, I cannot wait. I am so excited. I was going to take my girlfriend, well, dragging my girlfriend to whether she liked it or not. It's like, you're going to go see Sonic and you'll like it. And yeah, we were about to go, and a couple of days before we were supposed to go and see it, I fell ill with a stomach bug. And do you know what it reminded me of? And this is me like letting out my inner Simpson fan out. But have you ever seen the episode where Homer wants to go to Duff Gardens?
Oh, I think I vaguely remember. I've not seen it in a while, but I remember the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like where he wants to take Bart and Lisa to Duff Gardens, and he ends up falling deathly ill because he eats like a bad sandwich, and he's like trying to crawl to the car, going, "Must get to Duff Gardens," and he collapses on the steering wheel, and you just hear the brrrr go. That's how I felt. I was like, "Must get to Sonic 2." Yeah, I was deathly ill with that stomach bug. I could not go. So I ended up, I missed it. And weirdly enough, at the time of recording this episode, I've only just got the refund for it. So yeah, shout out to Odeon for that. Yeah, I was really gutted. So I had to wait until like a couple of weeks later to actually watch this film. And yeah, I've got to say, overall, absolutely loved it. A lot of great kind of fan moments. Really just a lot of things. Like overall, I would say this was a great film personally. I really went in, I enjoyed it, came out with a smile on my face. But what did you think of it, Adam?
Yeah, so I went to see it. Me and my fiance went to see it about a week after it had been released. Yeah, and we had a lot of fun with it as well. Like, I don't know what my expectations were. I really enjoyed the first film. So again, I was kind of hoping that it would keep the momentum up and kind of be a good thrill ride as well. And I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a really good film. There's not much. I mean, I don't think it's perfect by any stretch, but there's nothing I was really sitting there being like, oh, this is ruining my enjoyment. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's well paced. It's funny. There's a lot of good laughs, good action. So yeah, we both had a great time watching it.
Well, there was a lack of Gerald Robotnik, as we've established.
Well, that's true. That's my big detraction. So that's why I only get 2 stars.
2 out of 10. Yeah, this was a very short review, probably like our speediest review. So thank you all so much for joining this episode. If you'd like to, nah, I'm only kidding. I've still got like an hour or two left of this episode. So.
Now we just talk about why Pierce Brosnan should play Gerald Robotnik.
It's a shame because I don't think Pierce Brosnan's one of those actors that uses like Twitter or anything.
Oh.
But can you imagine like being the person who is like, the reason he wakes up in the morning, he has his breakfast, he looks out of his window, he thinks, today is a good day. And then he looks down at his computer and he's like, why the hell is Pierce Brosnan and Gerald Robotnik trending on Twitter? Yeah, no, we will not be responsible for that. But if you want to directly message, no, I'm kidding. Yes, Adam, can you back me up on this and say for
Chatsunami Army rally? We're going to get Pierce Brosnan.
I was going to say, is this when we find out we actually have more of an influence over fans than we actually realised?
Our legions of followers are outside Pierce Brosnan's house, wherever he is in the world, just being like, pay homage to Gerald Robotnik by signing on. That's a long sign, but still a big sign, but still.
Where are the lizards? Oh god. Anyway, our fan fiction aside, we just jump into
stop this madness before like the final hazard it's out of control, trying to destroy the earth.
Talk about loving and learning. I mean, Sonic Month is just over. It's like what's that line at The Godfather again? When I thought I was ill, they pulled me back in. We promise that we'll go into different topics, but considering how big Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is just now, yeah, we might as well talk about it, get out of the way, and then we can move on to, cheerier games like Edith Finch. And that terrible joke aside, we will see you right after these messages. Welcome to Chatsunami, a variety podcast that talks about topics from gaming and films to streaming and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we discussed Game of the Decade, Deadly Premonition, the romantic thriller Birdemic, and listen to us get all sappy as we discuss our top 5 Christmas films.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
stay hydrated.
We are Beer and Chill Podcast.
Podcast where we review TV shows, games, movies, and whatever else takes our fancy.
So what are you waiting for? If you're a cool kid like us, you're gonna listen to the Beer and Chill Podcast. You can get it anywhere from Spotify all the way to your grandmother's radio. My name is Jan.
And I'm Craigie C.
And we are
Beer and Chill.
So let's talk about the positives of this film because, yeah, there has been a lot of positive reception from fans for this film. And I was honestly quite surprised because I wasn't sure whether people were going to love it, they were going to hate it. In all honesty, would you say, Adam, that you expected this kind of film, considering what we got from the first film?
yeah, I was actually quite surprised with how much fan service was in this one. As you kind of alluded to with the first film, is that there is stuff in there, but it felt more like a film for kind of newcomers. You know, maybe people who'd never played a Sonic game or just knew Sonic in passing. You know, it was a much more a film for them. You know, you didn't have to know a lot about the character and the universe to get into it and enjoy it. But I was surprised at this one how much this one embraced, you know, of the extended Sonic universe and the characters it brought in. There's so much fan service, which I think is a great thing in this film. From the big things like obviously having like Knuckles and Tails in there, to even the small things like when he's underwater and he like sucks in the air bubble and stuff. I just thought the level of fan service was just great in it.
There were so many small moments as well, though, which I thought were great. For example, the cafe that Agent Stone takes over is the Mean Bean Cafe, which refers to, I think it's Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean machine.
I love that reference, it was so cool.
Apparently, though, here's a fun fact for you tonight. Before this film came out, there's actually a prequel comic.
Really?
Yeah, it's called The Pre-Quill. Like a, you know, hedgehog's quills, yeah. I actually thought it was pretty clever, but it like follows different stories. So it's like Tails trying to find Sonic, Knuckles hunting down Eggman. Like, not, you know, knowing it's Eggman on the other side. Sonic, you know, being Sonic, trying to become Blue Justice or whatever. Whatever that was. In that, there's actually one particular comic where it focuses on Agent Stone taking advice from Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik, whatever you want to call him. He tells him how to take over this coffee shop for his maniacal means. I think it's brilliant. The fact that Dr. Robotnik had like this contingency plan to take over the local Starbucks, I thought, that's amazing.
You gotta love that. You gotta admire that.
Honestly, I thought all the characters pretty much shone in this film. I said this in our first Sonic movie review, where I said that film kind of had to walk so that this film could run. And I feel as if like this film definitely sprinted off right away when it started immediately. It was dumping all this lore, or rather kind of lore from the games, and then kind of piecing it together in the movie universe. And I thought they actually did it really well. You know, for example, Gunn is in this film, which was revealed in the trailer. As you said, they're just as incompetent as the games. We've of course got so many references to the games. We've actually got a Sonic 06 reference towards the end.
I'm so gutted that I missed this. And when you informed me, I was like, oh, what? I thought Sonic Month had made me a dedicated, passionate fan, but I'm like, no, clearly not. If I'm missing these references.
So towards the end of the film, and again, these are major spoilers, but you know, just in case you're still with us, well, I won't spoil it too much, but basically Sonic is fighting Eggman at the end, and to defeat his...
No way. They're not friends.
I know. I was shocked at that as well. I wrote a strongly worded letter to Ken Penders. Don't worry, he'll sort this out. For legal reasons, this is a joke, Mr. Penders. Please don't sue us. We literally have nothing but panda memes and sandwiches. Please sponsor us. Ever since Adam went off in his tirade at Atari, no one will touch us.
After us. Ken Penders, you're our last hope. That's very
Oh
common.
god, the amount of people like spamming him and saying, I can't remember if he kicked up a fuss about it, because there's a whole thing about him and his like love of the Echidna characters and how he had stewardship of everything. And as soon as like, somebody saw that Knuckles had a dad in this, everyone was like, oh, what's Mr. Pender's gonna think of this? He's gonna be mad. It's like, oh god. But yeah, sorry, going back to the Sonic 06 reference, yeah, there's a bit where, he's fighting the robot and he taps his foot on the robot to like kind of push it down after he's destroyed it. And at the very beginning of 06, when Sonic first appears and he like spins around and he destroys all the robots around him, and then he gets to the final one and he like taps it with his foot. I don't know how intentional it is, but it does seem as if it's an 06 reference, which if it was intentional, that is pretty awesome, not gonna lie.
The most love that Sega showed that game in like 10 years.
Pretty much, yeah. It even got shafted in... In fact, no, that's a lie. I was going to say it got shafted in the Sonic Symphony stream, but no, they had a moment where they played the music from it, and then they quickly moved on. Something as well, though, that I was a little bit worried about were the human characters. And don't get me wrong, I will get on to, what I thought about certain human characters, but see, for the most part, I actually thought they were really well integrated into the story, because I was a bit worried that in the first one, it definitely felt more kind of, as much as I like it, it felt more kind of like the stereotypical road trip films, Alvin and the Chipmunk, Hop, the Smurfs, those kind of live action shows, or rather live action films, where you have the animated protagonist and he's going on a road trip with the main human guy, and they don't get along, but then they work together. I was worried we were going to get more of that, but we really didn't, because I did like the fact that Donut Lord, which his name's Tom, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Tom, yeah.
Yeah, it is Tom and Maddie, right?
Before the stream, but it is Tom, yeah.
Yeah, because we did joke about this in the last one. We just called him Donut Lord throughout it. But I did like the fact that Tom and Maddie played more of a parental role, because initially in the first one they were his friends, but I did like that kind of shift in dynamic, that they were no longer, just friends. They were more his parents and guardians, and I really like that. Of course, Eggman as well. Eggman comes back with much gusto, I must say. Do you have something to add, Adam?
No, I just wanted to add the laugh there. The ring laugh.
Yeah, I've kind of got mixed things about him, but I'll save that for the negative part. But one other character I do want to point out, and someone we just talked about there, was Agent Stone, which I am actually surprised at how much of a fan favourite he's becoming. He went from this kind of side character who, was just like a lab assistant to Dr. Eggman, to becoming a full-blown devotee who's like... fantasizing about him and everything. I thought that was brilliant. I absolutely loved that about his character. Like, what did you think about him?
Yeah, like I love the kind of layers that they added to the Eggman Agent Stone relationship. I thought that was just excellent, and he's one of the standouts. I thought there was 3 standouts in the human cast for this, or the live action cast, I should say, for this film. Agent Stone was one of them. The actor Adam Pally, who plays Wade Whipple, who's like the deputy sheriff. He's not in it much, but I thought he was a real like scene stealer when he was in. He has a couple of great scenes with Agent Stone. I thought they were really funny. And then Rachel, who is Maddie's sister, so the main character's sister, played by Natasha Rothwell. I thought she was absolute. I thought she stole this film. I just was like, found her absolutely hysterical every time she was on the screen. I thought she was such a great screen presence. So yeah, so the three of them just stole the show from me, and I just thought they were excellent.
That was something I found quite interesting, because one of the main criticisms of this film, and we will get into it in depth, but one of the criticisms was the wedding scene and the whole wedding setting of the film, where a lot of fans kind of consider it to have gone on for too long. And, while that is probably the case, and as I said, I'll go into it more in depth in our next part of the episode, I have to admit, when I went to see this film, and I don't know if this was the same for you, Adam, but there was obviously a lot of children and parents going to this. A lot of the parents were, obviously they were laughing a lot more at the wedding scenes. And it kind of felt nice that there was like something for everyone in this film. There was like the Sonic hijinks for the kids, and there was, that kind of like the wedding side. And because I was sitting beside a mum and her wee boy, who I have to admit the wee boy was quite nice. He kept like getting up every so often, and even when some of the characters were dancing, like he would be dancing, and the mum's whispering frantically, "Stop that! Stop flossing! Go down! Go back!" Seriously, I kid you not. Like, see when Eggman started flossing. Yeah, no spoilers, but Eggman flosses in this film. This wee boy sitting beside us just started flossing beside us. And the mum was just like, "Stop! Stop! Sit down." That was quite funny, but yeah, I thought that was quite interesting that there was something for everyone, and the fact that the parents could kind of laugh at those scenes. But was it the same kind of experience for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the mark of a good kind of children's film, is a film that kind of has something for everybody. As you say, that's what makes Pixar films so great, is that there's so many great layers to them, that there's stuff for the stuff for children, but there's a lot of stuff for adults as well, and then there's stuff as well that appeals to both age groups. And it's good that I like the fact that the Sonic film had that, as you say, in the wedding scene. And perhaps it did go on a touch long. There's definitely some bits I think could have been trimmed like ever so slightly, but still, I totally agree that it was good to have that. And we were also actually sat next to a mum and her son, and I've got to say he was impeccably well behaved. The kid, no racket was caused. He was just being really, because he was really enjoying the film and everything. And it's really nice to see that, because obviously this is a film that is appealing to children. And it's nice to have like a film like that kids do get really enthused, whether they're just sitting there quietly in awe or whether they're getting up there and flossing. It is nice to see that, but it's nice as well that there is, they have got material in there for the adults and stuff, so it doesn't prove to be too much of an ordeal like some kids' films can be.
I have to admit, it kind of warmed my heart a little bit seeing, like, all these kids going in to see this film, because it's weird to think that, and, if you want to hear our full opinions, we do literally have a full month of us talking about Sonic, but it's the fact that Sonic is this 90s character, this kind of product of a completely different age of gaming, where his sole purpose was to be, cool and edgy by 90s standards, and be like the anti-Mario and everything, but then seeing an interpretation that a new generation can get into, and the kids absolutely loving it, the parents laughing, as I said, at the wedding scene and things, and at some of the references, like, Sonic's like hijinks, doing like the risky business and, tearing up the place like a child probably would if they were unsupervised, because I did notice a lot of parents were kind of laughing, and I think one mother, like sitting nearby us, was going, "Oh no." The scene at the beginning where Sonic tears up the place and everything.
My kids alone.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. I don't know. There's just something wholesome about them coming together and just as a family, like they're all enjoying it and everything. And I have to admit, even when my girlfriend and I, we were watching it, and when we watched the first one together, she was talking about, how cute Sonic looked, and like saying the same things, like saying, "Oh no," when he was like blowing things up in the house. He's like, "Oh no, I have to put this back together," and FaceTiming and messing about with the dog and everything. I don't know. It was just a nice kind of experience overall. But moving on from the human characters, before we jump into the negatives and the very meaty parts of this film, what did you think of Team Sonic themselves? That, of course, being Sonic, Tails, and newcomer Knuckles.
Well, again, I thought Ben Schwartz did an excellent job. I think he's a really good voice for Sonic. I mean, we could argue about where he lists in the all-time greats of Sonic voice actors, but I think he's really good. I really like what he does with the character. I think he has that nice kind of cocky edge to him, but also as well is able to humanize Sonic effectively. Is it Colleen O'Shaughnessy? I don't want to pronounce her name wrong. Yeah, who voices Tails. She does an excellent job, and she's done quite a few of the games, hasn't she? So you can tell she knows what she's doing, and I think she brings that same kind of energy, and yeah, that kind of youthful energy to Tails that you want to see, like he's a character who's trying to prove himself and trying to find his way in the world and carve out a role for himself. And I think she does that excellently, but she's so well versed in it that I didn't really have any worries about her voicing. I was like, I'm pretty sure she'll be fine. Idris Elba was a funny one, because I remember when I heard that he was voicing Knuckles, I was like, oh, that's not who I would have initially picked. But I was like, okay, but let's see what it's like. I have to say, for about the first half of the film, I didn't really get on board with his rendition of Knuckles. It just felt so different from what I'd seen in the games. And I know there's there is similarities in how the character is portrayed. But I guess it's just because Idris Elba has such a recognizable voice, and it felt so different from what I'd heard before that it didn't quite chime, didn't quite sound right to me. So I really struggled with that. But by the end of the film and like throughout the film's second half, it clicked for me, it all fell into place, and I really came to appreciate his Knuckles. And I thought by the end he was excellent. There's a scene at the end where they're on a baseball field, and I thought like just his lines were just great there, and he was just it was so much fun to see, and I feel like he really kind of grew into it, or I don't know if he so much grew into it, but I just kind of became attuned to it, and so I thought he was excellent by the end. So I think overall, like Team Sonic they were done perfectly. I've really got no kind of criticisms.
No, I totally agree with you on the voice acting front. Ben Schwartz, as you said, great job. Colleen O'Shaughnessy, fantastic as Tails. I will agree with Knuckles. I did think Idris Elba was very... I do agree, it's like a kind of strange one hearing him, because obviously Tails' voice actor hasn't changed from the games to the film, so there's been no kind of transitional period there. And the same with Sonic, he's had one film to establish his voice, so again, there's not as much kind of jarring changes for his voice. So I think it was kind of just getting used to that, and we get to see like a more kind of serious Knuckles, who like, he honestly felt a bit more like, Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That kind of no-nonsense, play it by the book, I am with honour kind of thing, and that was quite interesting. The only criticism I would say about these three characters is Tails. He did play like a really key part in this film, but I felt sometimes it was kind of sidelined, because definitely Sonic and Knuckles were the poster children for this film. Like, it was like a huge battle between Sonic and Knuckles, and Tails was kind of just there as like a third wheel almost at times.
Yeah, like that's a very good point. And yeah, do you think it would have been better to have, for this film, maybe just have had Tails in it? And then maybe Knuckles came another one. Obviously, like, I mean, it is. I have seen people say it's maybe a bit too long, this film, but it's only it's only about 2 hours, and you're still trying to introduce a lot of characters. Some characters are inevitably going to suffer, and I think you're right. And Tails is one of the casualties of that. So, do you think it would have been better to introduce them kind of separately?
Probably, but there probably would have been a bit more of a risk to do that, because it's like the first film was a surprise success, so they might have thought that by stretching it out to have Tails only, because that's what I thought. I genuinely thought before they announced it was going to be Sonic in the first one, then Sonic and Tails in the second one, then in the third one they were going to introduce Knuckles. But as soon as they introduce Knuckles, you're kind of like, what? Knuckles? What are you doing here? I feel though, for what they did, I do agree with you, they did a serviceable job, but I think at times there was a lot of mismanagement of the scenes. And what I mean by that is, like, there's a lot of scenes, as you said, in this film that could have been cut down, like the wedding scene, or there's a particular scene that I will go into more depth about, but the dance scene was another scene that was heavily criticised by the fans, where Sonic and Tails go into this bar in Serbia, I want to say, and they challenge these people to a dance-off, which very weird to begin with, and I know you have a lot to say about this, Adam, but yeah, they do that, and I feel as if you took that scene out and then had like an entire sequence where Sonic and Tails were getting to know one another, or Tails was kind of showing off a bit more of his skills, he felt more just like a kind of like an intense fanboy at times. I never thought that he came across as creepy or anything, but that's kind of all it amounted to, and I feel as if they could have maybe arranged different scenes for those sections rather than having like a 10-minute dance sequence with out-of-date music. So yeah, before we go on, will we talk about the dance scene?
Let's go, we're into it now.
Yeah, so what was your take on the dance scene?
My take was, okay, like, I don't so much mind it in concept, but my thing was, why are we using a song that's like 7 or 8 years old now? Like, I remember when Uptown Funk came out, and it was huge. There's no denying. Like, I don't know if you remember when it came out, but it was all over the airwaves. It's a great song. I'm not here to criticize the song, but I was just like, I don't know. Maybe this is me just being too pernickety, but I was like, is there not like a more recent song that, for a start, there must be kids who went to see this film who weren't alive when Uptown Funk was released, or who were like 1 year, like were just born. Like, is Uptown Funk still like a cultural like ref touchstone? I don't know. It's just like, why are we using this song? Why not use a more recent one? There must be one out there. I mean, just because I can't name one, that it doesn't mean there's not one. There must be songs that are really resonate with like a wide audience that would be far more effective than that one.
Do you want to know when Uptown Funk actually came out?
Is it 2014?
2014, yeah, 8
Yeah,
years
good.
ago.
8 years.
Yeah, that makes me feel old because I remember when this was everywhere on the radio.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, I loved kind of the cute references in that scene where it's like Sonic does the Sonic Adventure pose when he's dancing. And I know technically that's probably to establish the duplication thing, or the duplication device that Tails has, which made me actually realise I don't know why Tails didn't use that during the big battle at the end, but he did once he got into the machine. But I feel as if outside of the machine, that would have been a hell of a lot more useful. But anyway, sorry, that's nitpicking.
I don't want to make it too easy on Team Sonic.
Yeah, back to Uptown Funk. It seems like, I do agree, it seems like a weird choice of song. I just felt as if that scene in particular just wasn't necessary. And I've heard people compare this to Rise of Skywalker, which I think is a bit unfair, where it's like they have to find a MacGuffin to find the ultimate MacGuffin. They have to follow a map to find a compass to find the actual desired object. And you're like, I don't agree 100% with that, but I see what they mean. It kind of seems weird that you would have a map that goes to a compass that goes to the actual thing. It seemed a bit padded out in that regard, but I honestly felt as if for the dance scene they could have done something different to develop Tails' character, maybe tell us a bit more about him, because he says like, oh, I was bullied for having two tails and everything, and that was kind of it. Like, we didn't get to see more of that, almost. And don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for a serious biopic on Tails getting bullied, but they could have done something else. But before we move on, because there's another scene that I want to talk about in particular, but is there anything more you want to say about the dance scene?
I think, do you know what it felt to me? It felt like a kind of poor imitation of the bar fight from the first film, which was a fun scene and actually, did quite effectively develop the relationship between Donut Lord and Sonic in the first film. And this one felt like an attempt to duplicate that, but it just didn't land. It goes on too long, and I'm just sitting there being like, why Uptown Funk? Like, why this song? Did music just end? We're like, right, Uptown Funk is the pinnacle of music. We can't get any better than this. So I don't know why I'm so obsessed with this, but it really just bothered me.
No, let it out, Adam. You're amongst friends. You do know I charge by the hour. That's why we're making episodes shorter now.
Well, it's fine. When the Pierce Brosnan salary comes in, I'll be able to forward you all that money.
Ah, yes. I mean, you sunk all your money into our Latin motto plaque.
I know. And paying homage to my speech to Gerald Robotnik's memory.
Yeah, that was a really expensive speech you got written. Anyway.
I know. Shouldn't know how to translate it to so many languages.
Yes, it's second behind the Bible, from what I heard. So
beating out Mein Kampf, though, at least, so that's good.
See, when you started this review, would you believe that we would have made references to these kind of things?
Do you know what? It was always. I always think at some point when we do an episode, I'm like, there's a possibility that anything could happen.
Pretty much, yeah. It's an unfortunate truth, I must say. The one thing I will say before we move on from the dance scene is I honestly do think that this is probably the closest any of these films have come to feeling like, the old school, as I said before, the old school kind of live action films, like Alvin and the Chipmunks and all of that, where, because I said that to you, it was almost as if I was expecting Donut Lord to kick down the door and go, Sonic! And drag him out and everything. It felt more like a kid's film at that point, because don't get me wrong, the bar scene wasn't, violent or anything, but a bar fight in a place like that is believable, at least. It's not that far of a reach to be like, oh, Sonic's pissed off so many people that they're gonna, fight one another. But this, it was like, what, Serbian dance-offs? What? It just felt a bit too far-fetched. And this is coming from a film that has flying, talking hedgehogs. It's just, I was kind of like, come on. It's like everything else, fine. That, I was like, I don't know. But moving on from that one, we've of course got the wedding scene, which it definitely could have been. It has entertaining moments, but I do agree with the critics. I do think it could have been cut down significantly. And don't get me wrong, I thought the gun reveal was really funny.
Yeah.
Even the priest was like, oh, look. I did laugh, actually, very hard when I saw that. I was like, that was amazing. But I don't know, I didn't like the fact that they introduced them and then immediately they were all like bet up and that was it.
Yeah, it has. I think with the wedding thing, what I would say is it has a great payoff. I agree. Like, I think it pays off really well. But you're right, it does take a bit too long to get there. It very much meanders, and I think this is part of the issue. I think with having like the human cast still have a quite prominent. I keep saying the human cast, the live action cast, having like a prominent role because we need to give screen time to James Marsden and to Natasha Rothwell, Tika Sumpter, and the fact that they cast. He's not the most well known actor, but I certainly recognise him as Shemar Moore as the fiance. He's quite famous for series like Criminal Minds, and I think that SWAT series as well. I don't know if that's still ongoing, but so he is known. So again, you're going to have to give him something to do, and you're going to have to give him screen time, and so it kind of just prolongs and drags out this whole thing more than it really should be. When really what we want to get to is we want to get to the gun reveal, which is the big thing, and it's great, and it's done so well, and I totally agree. But then, as you say, it get revealed, and the next thing, Maddie and Rachel are like, are like just destroying them all, as you say. So it gets very rushed at that bit, where maybe it would have been nicer to have drawn that bit out a bit more.
Like, I feel as if once they revealed Gun, they could have just had a scene where they were talking to Sonic and Tails, getting Tails, not fixed, that's the wrong word, but, recovering Tails and everything, and use that scene to kind of have more of a conversation and everything. And as much as I thought the character of Rachel was, like, really well done in this film, maybe it was a bit much. After the gun reveal, it did seem a bit much to have her, like, blowing up the, like, sound system, driving a cart towards them, which, as funny as that was, I was like, at the end of the day, this is a Sonic film, and I'm not saying it had to be 100% Sonic constantly, but it kind of, like, took away from the film, because as this was all going on, they had the gun commander tied up, they had, they were but they were, beating up all the gun soldiers. I'm sitting there looking at my watch thinking, Dr. Robotnik and Knuckles are getting real close to that emerald. Is no one going to, go and stop them? Or are we just going to, like, linger at this wedding? And it just felt like an unnecessary obstacle, because immediately after Maddie gets in, she frees them. And you're like, okay, the tension's kind of gone now. So it's not a hot take, but I do feel as if it kind of overstayed its welcome. And I think it was a bad idea for them to show Gun as completely incompetent. Because don't get me wrong, it's a kids' film, people in authority who are quote-unquote the bad guys are, always going to have, like, incompetent goons and things like that. But keep in mind that in the first film, and this is still one of my favourite, like, kind of running jokes, but the fact that they got Dr. Eggman in to stage, like, international coups and things, it was like that sense of realism, if that makes sense. Whereas now it's like, oh no, they're pratfalling over ice and things. And again, it started to slip into that territory of it was feeling like more like a kid's film, if that makes sense. Obviously, like, it is a kid's film, but did you feel like that this felt more kind of kiddie compared to the first one?
I guess in a way, I mean, I didn't feel like there was a noticeable difference in terms of that. Certainly, maybe this one was certainly more wacky. I definitely think they definitely upped the kind of craziness and the kind of zaniness of it. So I guess maybe in that sense, yeah, maybe it is a bit more kind of trying to appeal to maybe more kind of like childish sensibilities. But I tell you, the big problem I had with the wedding scene was I felt like they teased that there was going to be like because after they capture Sonic and Tails, the gun commander, I'm sure, says something like, "I'll bring the helicopter and we'll get them out." I was like, oh my god, are we going to see City Escape here? And I was getting all excited, and then we didn't see City Escape, and I was like, oh man, that's terrible. I don't even know if that was deliberate, but I was like, man, what a tease.
Apparently, on the helicopter at the very, the finale,
yeah,
they've actually got SA2
oh, really?
on it. Yeah, apparently, yeah. So yeah, it kind of, like, I have to admit, I missed it as well, but I was reading online, I was like, neat.
Well, there you go.
I know what you mean, though. There was a lot of moments where it was kind of, I guess, missed opportunities. Like, going back to what you were saying about this film being more wacky, I'm honestly a bit conflicted, and I might be in the minority here, so see if I die after this episode gets published. Scatter my ashes in San Francisco. Yes, that's a City Escape reference for anyone listening.
Do I have to jump out of the helicopter while doing it?
I would expect nothing less. I'm questioning your commitment to the podcast.
How am I going to have time for this and convincing Pierce Brosnan to play Gerald Robotnik? Come on.
Time management, man. Come on.
I'm just one man. I can't do it all.
So, yeah, going back to my very possibly warm take, I don't know how I feel about Robotnik in this film. In the first one, I thought he was kind of perfect, you know, that perfect blend between maniacal and cunning. In this film, he was manic, and you could tell that Jim Carrey was having a lot of fun with the character, but I felt as if at times he was almost too manic, if that makes sense. He was just like spouting out pop culture references, because obviously, you know, Sonic is the one who he'll go around, he'll start making jokes and things, and he gets a bit kind of too much with that. But, you know, you had Eggman flossing, you had him making Wizard of Oz references and things. Sometimes he was absolutely fantastic, but then other times you were just kind of like, he was a bit much. But I did like him when he finally absorbed the Master Emerald. I did think that was a really cool transition. And I have to admit, sorry, just a kind of brief tangent, but I thought the art direction in this was absolutely fantastic. Like, I really loved what they did with the Master Emerald and having the Chaos Emeralds inside them. I thought that was a really clever way to adapt it into the films, rather than having, you know, them separate. I loved the backstory between the Echidnas and the Owls, and, you know, the artwork done for that was beautiful. But sorry, that was just a side tangent, because I realised we crossed the Rubicon of positive comments here. But going back to Robotnik, what did you think of him?
Yeah, I'm not really a fan. I'm not really a fan of Jim Carrey's portrayal. You know, in fairness, I think it does work to an extent for these films, because they are, you know, they are trying to be a bit more kind of wacky and crazy. I guess maybe you'll be able to say with more authority if this is true or not, but it feels like Jim Carrey's version of Eggman is a little bit more kind of in keeping with what he's been in the recent games, in that more kind of, I mean, again, Jim Carrey is playing it kind of up to 11, you know, turned up to 11, but he does feel like more of a kind of wacky, less maniacal character than he has been. I feel Jim Carrey is one of these people that he's a bit of a Marmite character. I feel like you either really like what he does or you really just don't. And, you know, and he has done varied roles, like he has done more subdued roles, but he's obviously very well known for his kind of full on, you know, high energy, zany, wacky characters like the Riddler in Batman Forever, things like Ace Ventura, things like that. I think, do you know the reason I think I don't really like him in this film is that, and I blame you for this, Satsunami, but you've really showed me how great Eggman is in the adventure games, with that being like him being such like a maniacal and calculating character, that this just feels so far removed from that I just it doesn't, I don't know, I just don't like it. It doesn't resonate with me, and it's not something that I'm a particular fan of. But it does work for people. I mean, my fiance, he's not really like a Sonic fan or well versed at all in the Sonic universe, despite my best efforts.
One day.
One of these days. Like, she really likes Jim Carrey anyway. She really liked him in this film. She was glad to be able to see him. She kind of didn't like in the last film that he was kind of felt like he was being held back a bit. She liked that he was kind of just able to, like, you know, go like full on crazy in this one. So it is working for people. It's just, again, maybe a personal thing. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I feel as if you're not like a fan of Sonic and you're just taking him as like a villain who's gone like mental and he's come back, and as you said, that was one of the kind of critiques that a lot of people had, that he was more subdued in the first film, and then in the second one he becomes kind of like the Mask / Ace Ventura Jim Carrey, you know, where he's absolutely wacky, he's got all these puns and everything. But if you're comparing him to Eggman, and I do apologise for ruining that for you, as I said before in our Sonic Month episodes, I am an absolutely huge fan of the Adventure series, and I absolutely love his, or when I say his, I absolutely love Eggman's portrayal in those games, because he's just the right amount of serious, cunning, maniacal. You know, he's like a genuine villain. Not overly, like he's not so far gone that, you know, you think, oh, he's edgy, he's serious. Like, he's still got a kind of modicum of restraint. But bringing in an actor like Jim Carrey does not flesh with that portrayal. And it's a bit like Ben Schwartz, because on the other side, you know, Ben Schwartz does his own thing with Sonic, just as Ryan Drummond, Jason Griffith, the way Roger Craig Smith gave his own portrayal. Every actor, whether it be voice actor or actual actor, is gonna give their own take. And I do agree. Personally, Carrey as Robotnik didn't do it 100% for me. As a villain in his own right, he was absolutely fantastic. It was a lot of fun to watch, but there were some moments where it didn't gel with me. Like, for example, see the very ending where he finally gets defeated and he's falling to the earth and he yells, "Later, haters," and that's his like last line. I really didn't like that, I gotta say.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a Robotnik line, does it?
No, not really. It feels more like like, I don't even know, it feels more like something Sonic would say.
Yeah, it much more feels like that. It's interesting as well, because I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Jim Carrey recently retired from acting, and I was reading that apparently, well, first of all, I'll say Jim Carrey released this announcement on April Fool's Day, so I don't know whether this is the classic April Fool, or whether this is like the perfect day for a comedian to announce their retirement as April Fool's Day, so I can't make my mind up, so I guess we'll have to see. But I did see the producer said that if he does stay retired, they're not going to recast the role of Eggman. I don't know. I find that weird because I can't imagine a Sonic game or film without Eggman in it. Because there's definitely not been a main series game that hasn't had Eggman. And if Jim Carrey wants to retire from it, that's completely his decision and respect that. But I think it's a bit of a mistake from the producers not to consider recasting, because you could totally get somebody else, and Eggman can look completely different. He could look maybe a bit more like he looks in the kind of games and stuff, and you could just have a new actor and whatever. I don't know. The Master Emerald has changed him or whatever. I don't know. It just feels like a mistake not to kind of let that role kind of retire with Jim Carrey. I don't know what you feel about it.
If it is real, are you ready for my prediction for this?
Oh, let's go for it.
God, I feel like one of these like comic book predictors where it's like, oh, we saw like 0.1 of a pixel of this particular thing, and if we zoom into this, we're going to get this. But if this is true and Jim Carrey does retire from acting, this isn't kind of the first time that we've not had Robotnik as kind of the main figure. So if you go back to things like Sonic, well, technically it's called Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, I keep referring to it as Sonic Sat AM, but for the sake of brevity, Sonic Sat AM kind of focused on, Sonic and his freedom fighter friends fighting against Robotnik. But in that show, he had a sidekick called Snively, and I think it's Snively or Snively, something like that. But what ended up happening at the end of that show before it got cancelled, on a cliffhanger might I add, is that Robotnik gets defeated and his aide actually takes the mantle of, becoming the next villain, with the creepy cape and everything. And then of course the show got cancelled. And even in and this is me being an absolute nerd, so I apologise, but in the new Sonic IDW comics, there is a platypus called Dr. Starline, who is like a massive Dr. Eggman fanatic, and he follows him, and after the events of a particular storyline, he falls out of favour with him, so he decides to do like his own thing. So in kind of Sonic media, there's loads of other examples, but in Sonic media, it's not unheard of to move the focus away from Eggman. I mean, look at Shadow the Hedgehog. Well, the Black Arms were the main antagonists in that
That's
one,
a good point.
and Eggman was kind of sidelined. But in terms of kind of the canon universe, my kind of prediction would be that it would be Agent Stone that takes the mantle, that it might be kind of shifting the focus to him to take up the role of Eggman. Maybe not to the same, maniacal extent. He's not going to dress maybe as Eggman, but I feel if Jim Carrey does quit acting and, like they don't recast Robotnik, I feel as if that's one of the directions they could go. The other direction, of course, would be that they don't bring him back, but they bring Shadow in as the villain, which, again, we'll get to that point, but they'll bring in, other characters like Shadow, Metal Sonic could be one, like other characters in to be the villains and take that kind of placeholder, because as you know, there's going to be like a Knuckles series on Paramount Plus, which, yeah, they've got a great track record with their Halo franchise right now. Paramount, please sponsor us. And we'll talk good about your show, I swear. Yeah, sorry, that's another episode for another time, but yeah, I get the feeling that for the Knuckles show, they're probably going to focus on like other characters, either made up or otherwise in the lore, but not kind of included, if that makes sense.
Do I hear some chaotix, do I?
Well, funny you should mention that. They actually get a cameo in the prequel comic.
Oh, really?
Knuckles goes to this, I don't think by his own will, but he goes to this Casinoopolis planet, or zone, or whatever they call it, and in the background, the Chaotix are there, gambling and losing all their money.
Classic.
I honestly thought that was such a neat touch. I was like, that is really cool. So that kind of establishes that officially the Chaotix are somewhere out there, which I thought was brilliant. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Because sorry, I kind of rambled and, I'll take off my tinfoil hat now, but what are your kind of thoughts on a Sonic franchise without Robotnik?
I'm glad to have heard you say that, because that has made me realise that it is possible. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just from what I've played of the Sonic games, Eggman is so like integral to every kind of thing. I couldn't envisage a kind of a mainline Sonic story without him. But it's interesting to hear you talk about the kind of different things they've done, and you talk about the Agent Stone thing. I think is really intriguing, and I think you'll likely be proved right on that. I think they are going to elevate him, and I think people would be pleased with that because he does seem to be a bit of a fan favorite. I'm all for that as well. I think the actor Lee Majub. Probably saying that wrong, but I think he's great, so I'd totally be in favour of that. I can't help but feel like if Jim Carrey does retire, they should and they may end up deciding to do that. So this doesn't have to be like a set in stone decision, but I do perhaps think they should maybe leave the possibility of Eggman coming back because I don't know, I feel like he's so integral to like the kind of Sonic and the Sonic universe. But it's encouraging. It's interesting to hear different ways it could go. So that's made me a bit more hopeful.
Hopefully it all goes well. And I didn't have like a strong opinion on Agent Stone when I first watched the first film. I thought he was an entertaining enough character, but I kind of thought he was just there. And then when this film came along and they kind of promoted him a little bit, it was actually really fun to watch him like express himself more, go into his own element. So he's definitely established himself, and I think that is a positive in this film, that a lot of the characters do have kind of breathing space to develop themselves for the most part, other than, a couple of exceptions. So it is kind of setting up for, if an actor does leave, then, they can fill the gap. I see what you mean though about Robotnik. Like, Robotnik is like Sherlock and Moriarty, or I don't know, Mario and Bowser, is probably a better one. It's that kind of traditional rivalry, so you do expect Robotnik to be there. So I can totally see why you would be kind of concerned that he isn't there in the future. Can I point out one particular gripe I do have with this film?
Go for it.
Right, so I was talking to you earlier about the music of this film, and as good as the music is, with the exception of Uptown Funk, which is a classic but probably doesn't fit this film, I was surprised at a severe lack of Sonic music in this film.
That would be, I love how in sync we are tonight. That would also be my big criticism of the film. I'm going to be honest, I cannot remember a single piece of music. Apart from Uptown Funk, I can't remember a single piece of music in this film. I don't think it's bad. I don't think the soundtrack's bad. But it just, I do remember just sitting there being like, there are so many opportunities here. And again, like maybe I don't know the kind of legal issues with, using these songs, and I don't know how easy it is, but setting that to one side, I remember sitting there and being like, there's a scene with a snowboarding scene with Sonic, and I'm like, wouldn't this be great to put some like kind of remix adventure music in here? Or when Eggman kind of builds his giant robot at the end, I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome to hear a bit of a strain of like something like I am the Eggman? Wouldn't that just be the perfect time to unleash something like that? And just this film is filled with fan service, but like do a bit more. And like the music is so great from the Sonic series that it almost feels criminal that they're not using it. And I don't know what the background, I don't know how easy it is to use. I don't know who owns what and rights and everything and where it is, but it really feels like such a missed opportunity. And also as well, the fact when Sonic's drowning, I was like, how are we not playing the da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Like, how are we not giving all Sonic fans in the theatre like a collective heart attack at this moment? I'm like, it just feels like a missed opportunity.
Well, one thing I will say about that scene is apparently that technically is in the film, but it's like a kind of more subtle, like they put a couple of notes in the song that plays over that scene, but they do like have a couple of notes that allude to that. They don't do it overtly, but there's a couple of subtle nods to that song, which I have to admit I completely missed it as well. I would say like I'd have to go back and listen to it again, any excuse to go watch this film again. Yeah, apparently there is, but I totally agree. See, this is the thing I don't get, because as you said, legally it's kind of ambiguous, but at the same time, like Crush 40 was brought back for the Sonic Symphony 30th celebration last year, I want to say, and I'm kind of surprised that, they're bringing back like Crush 40, they're bringing back all these amazing artists and things, and yet somehow they weren't incorporating it into the film. Again, if it's a copyright issue or whatever, I can understand, but because you were saying about the snowboarding thing, like that could have been Sonic Adventure. I mean, that even goes as far back to Sonic Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And, there's music from that they could have put in, or, there's just so much they could have done with the soundtrack, and it just felt kind of generic and bland at times. Other times it was actually okay, but I mean, the fact at the end we didn't have Open Your Heart or something like that, because I know, and I hope, this is kind of my prediction for the future, I hope to God that they play Live and Learn in Sonic 3. I genuinely hope they play it. If they don't, it would be criminal.
Yep.
Because considering the reveal at the end, it would be criminal if they didn't put that, and instead we got like a dramatic version of Uptown Funk as their battle in the final hazard. I would be raging.
Is this going to be like... so you know that there's all the kind of like the urban myths about Michael Jackson's involvement with Sonic 3. Are we going to find out later on there's going to be tons of urban rumors about Bruno Mars's involvement with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie music? They had to redo it all at the last minute for whatever reason.
What, is he in bed with like the Paramount executives?
They're all together in one giant bed. Bruno Mars, Paramount executives, Gerald Robotnik, everybody's Pierce Brosnan, everybody's in there.
It's a big old sleepover.
It's well past their bedtimes.
Do you know what kind of seals it for me though? It's a video I sent you on YouTube, and for anyone listening, you can feel free to go and look it up. But it's a video of somebody's edited the Sonic adventure sounds over the first film, and it is amazing how much it works. My favourite moment is when Eggman's introduced and they play his theme from the first Sonic Adventure game as the truck comes in and the stairs come down and he comes out, standing proud. I think it really works. So, and that's the thing as well, because the Eggman song you were talking about just a couple of minutes ago there, Adam, that's quite possibly the peak of Eggman's ego, just maniacal nature. The whole song is just, if you look at the lyrics, it's just basically the singer saying, I am the Eggman, that's what I am the Eggman, I've got the master plan. And it's this big bombastic, basically pop rock essentially, but it's just so well done. And that would have fit a lot better with Eggman and things, because in this one he is a lot more maniacal and over the top, and yeah, it just feels like a missed opportunity at that point.
Yeah, again, and maybe there are all these legal issues that we just don't know about, and we don't understand. So if that's the case, then there's not much you can really do about that. But it did just feel like, as much as I was enjoying the film, I was like, oh, if some of this music was playing right now, this would just send it right over the edge. This would be right at the peak. But it's just a shame that we didn't have that. What can you do, I suppose?
Well, at least with the first film, you could have at least accepted that, it's the first film of the franchise, they want to play it safe, they don't want too many kind of fan moments, But with this one, as you said, they go all out with the fan service, so why not just put that in? But, as I said, fingers crossed that for the third film, that's what they're going to do. Please, Sega, or Paramount, whoever owns it, please. I just want to hear Live and Learn on the big screen, okay? I don't want some 420p fan edit on YouTube. God, see if they don't, I'll be sad. But anyway, sorry, my man-child tears aside. Let's go on to the finale. Let's talk about the finale before we wrap up. There are two particular moments that I want to touch on. That, of course, being the ultimate transformation of Sonic into Super Sonic, and the reveal of Shadow the Hedgehog at the end. So let's start with Super Sonic. How did you feel about that scene?
I really liked it. I mean, I kind of been wondering when I saw... I don't think the Chaos Emeralds are explicitly mentioned until... Is it maybe halfway through?
I think
when they get to when they reach the Statue of Long Claw and they find the compass, I think it's then revealed that the Chaos Emeralds have been joined together to make the Master Emerald. You kind of did know... I think there's a couple of references. You can kind of see the Chaos Emeralds around the edge of the map, I think, maybe. Certainly, so I was excited. I was like, oh, it's cool, the Chaos. I was like, well, I wonder if they, if Super Sonic will kind of show up. But it was, I thought it was really cool when he came out. And then when I saw the Chaos, I think if you know the Sonic kind of universe and a bit about the games, a bit about the lore, you can kind of tell what's going to happen. Especially at the end of that fight, when all the Chaos Emeralds are there, the Master Emerald's shattered, all the Chaos Emeralds are there, and they're next to Sonic. I was like, right, okay, I can plot this out now. I know exactly what's going to happen. And it did. So it wasn't a surprise, but I still thought it was really well done. I thought it was a great another little bit of fan service. Yeah, so I thought it was well done.
I have to admit, I was wondering when they had the Master Emerald, because that's the whole thing. They're like, oh, we're going to find the Master Emerald. And I thought, okay, they're going to focus on the Master Emerald in this one, and then maybe in the sequel, they're going to go after the Chaos Emeralds. But as soon as I saw the, like the Longclaw's descendants and everything were guarding, like, the Master Emerald more as a vessel for the Chaos Emeralds, which in the lore and everything, and this is where I push up my nerd glasses, but in the lore, that is essentially what the Master Emerald is. It's like a negator almost for the Chaos Emeralds. It's like the controller of them and everything. And if you don't believe me, please check out Sonic Adventure. Not even for the lore reasons, it's just a great game. But moving that aside, I love the fact it was basically just like a cosmic lunchbox for all of these like Chaos Emeralds. When it shattered and you saw like the colourless emeralds, I thought, oh my god, we're gonna get it, because I genuinely didn't expect it. I half expected it, especially when people were saying like no spoilers, so I was like, okay, we're probably gonna get, Super Sonic, and then when we did, I don't know, I didn't really know what to feel, in a good way. I was just like, oh my god, it's actually Super Sonic and everything. And even when Eggman was controlled by the emerald, I was like, yeah, it's quite cool. Like, I liked the fact he was coming out and he had all these godlike powers, and then Knuckles punches the emerald out of him, literally. I thought that was funny. But yeah, when Sonic gets it, and it's like, oh, all hope's lost, and it's like, obviously it's a kid's film. They're not going to kill Sonic the Hedgehog. This isn't the Sonic 06 reboot. I mean,
we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Maybe one day when the franchise is wrapping up, or Uwe Boll gets his hands on it. But can you imagine an Uwe Boll Sonic 06 edition?
Oh god, please! I don't want to see Christian Slater play Shadow the Hedgehog. No offense to Christian Slater, I think he's had a bit of a recurring revival, so that was unfair. I do apologise.
I mean, fortunately, him and Pierce Brosnan don't listen to this podcast, so
I don't want Tara Reid as Rouge. There is the worst thing.
Is that your bottom line?
Yeah, that's all I want in life. I just don't want Tara. I mean, no offense to Tara Reid. I'm not saying that she doesn't have to act, but I just don't want her to play Rouge.
Yes, and on that note of seconding it... But yeah, I thought Super Sonic was actually really well done. But how did you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I really liked it. And I thought it was a cool reveal. I'm kind of glad. I mean, this kind of applies to the film as a whole. I'm kind of glad that we did Sonic Month in between the first and second Sonic films, because I think I got a lot more from this film, knowing more about the characters and more about the universe. And again, it's difficult. I don't think that not having that knowledge would be a huge detriment, but maybe it would be a little bit confusing what all of a sudden happened, but maybe not, I don't know. But I felt like, having known that, I kind of enjoyed it more.
I have to admit, I did really laugh when it was coming out the cinema, because when they did the whole shadow reveal, my girlfriend and I were coming out the cinema, and as we were walking to the car, we overheard this mum talking to her wee boy. The mum was like, I'm assuming she was probably interrogating her child for Christmas present or birthday present ideas, because she was like, oh, Shadow, is he a new character? I kid you not, the wee boy, bless him, he was just trying to explain, and he was using all these really weird, probably what he thinks are complicated words, but they just made no sense in the context of how he was trying to explain. And do you know what it reminded me of? The very beginning of Sonic Adventure, when Chaos appears, and Sonic is he goes, hey, you big drip, where you going? And he looks down, and Eggman's standing on the roof, and he's like, you know nothing, fool, it's Chaos, the god of destruction. Not gonna lie, that's kind of a little bit of how I felt in that moment. Obviously, being the responsible adult I am, I didn't turn round and say that to a random woman and her child. You know nothing, fool. It's Shadow, the ultimate life form. And then, a couple of days later, I get...
He went through release from jail.
Yeah, exactly. That's the real reason why the Chatsunami schedule has been a bit frantic just now.
The Red Panda lawyer has been working furiously.
He has been. I'm looking at him in the corner right now, and he's just shaking his head. It's just nope. Adjusting his waistcoat furiously. Well, we talk about it though. Not my poor choices in life. I mean, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Let's do it. It's been building to this.
I have to admit, I did laugh when you sent me. You didn't spoil it, but you did say there is a moment in this that you are going to absolutely be delighted about. And I was like, oh, is it going to be Gerald Robotnik? Is it going to be Bean the Dynamite? Who's it going to be? And then, of course, I did watch that scene, and as soon as I heard the words 50 years ago, my inner child just squealed with joy. I was just like, do you know that way? It's like, you know that meme of, is it Vince McMahon?
Yeah, Vince
The
McMahon,
wrestler?
yeah.
Vince McMahon, sorry. Yeah, it was that meme of Vince McMahon where he's getting more and more excited about something. And it was like, sure, we found some files. And I sit up and I go, And it's like 50 years ago, some kind of base, And as the capsule rises, I'm like, It shows his shadow. And then it's, when he leans back in the chair and his eyes are rolling back, I was like, oh my God. It's Shadow. Of course, I kept a calm exterior, but my interior, I was just like, this is the best night ever. And of course, my girlfriend, being not as much a Sonic fan, just looked at me as if, you okay? And I was just like, I've never been so happy in my life. It's so good. Out of curiosity, because you just said there, before you saw this film, you weren't really as much into Sonic until
a certain month happened.
Yeah, a certain month happened where, yes, I forcibly took you through the games. As someone who's, has been officially inducted into the fandom now, yeah, you still need to make an OC and then you're, official. But how did you feel about this scene?
I really liked it. I thought it was an excellent reveal, and I'm glad it was just that flash at the end, and I thought it was well done. And as you say, I think they do build it quite well, as you say, kind of leading the clues to make you be like, just that way. I thought it was excellent, and I look forward to seeing what they do with Shadow. I mean, my hope, kind of going ahead with the Sonic films, is that they're really going to lessen down the live action cast. I don't mind if James Marsden and Tika Sumpter make kind of one cameos and stuff in the later films, but I do kind of hope that if this film series keeps going, that it'll be much more focused on the Sonic, on Team Sonic and whoever else, Shadow, the Chaotix come, whoever it is, much more on those characters. So I think it was a really cool note to leave off on the film, and I think it makes me kind of excited for what they're going to do next, and hopefully they'll do Shadow justice.
That is my only worry about having Shadow in the series now, because on the one hand, yeah, it's fantastic that we've got Shadow now officially in the Sonic movie universe. It's going to be awesome to see him in action, but the thing I'm wondering is, how are they going to adapt him? Because let's face it, Shadow's story, as we talked in depth about, is quite a complicated one. He was raised in a space station, he was created by aliens, let's ignore that bit for the moment, but he is this character that witnessed a terrible tragedy. His friend was shot in front of him, and with her dying breath she managed to save him, and that is his whole character arc. I'm just wondering how they're going to adapt that, because obviously they're going to have to tone it down. They can't have, Sonic 3, get your Happy Meal of Maria Robotnik getting shot in the face.
Is it terrible that I really want that to be a toy? Or you know how you go in the cinema, you get they have those commemorative cups, and they usually there's quite a few now that have Batman on the top of them. I just want a picture of dying Maria, the model of that on top of my commemorative Sonic 3 cup. I think there's quite an easy solution for this. I think if you raise the age of Maria, so I don't know if she's a teenager or past 20, then I think it's fine for her to be shot. I'm just kids home. I think that's the limit. I think that's acceptable.
America, everybody. Yeah, that is actually something I was actually thinking. See, the more I thought about this film, and I thought how, they introduced Gunn as this relatively contemporary organisation, I thought, wait a minute. So if they go with the Maria, storyline, and they introduce her into the film, it wasn't Gunn that shot her. And I'm like, which government shot Maria? So is this going to be Who Shot Mr. Burns, but instead, #Who Shot Maria?
I'm putting the blame on the Reagan administration. Seems like a thing that would happen then. Mr. Robotnik, tear down the final hazard.
I would watch that film. I'm not going to lie.
I love that. Gerald Robotnik and Ronald Reagan fighting in space. Do it now.
Is this your Moonraker?
Yeah, basically it's my Moonraker. I want Pierce Brosnan to be Gerald Robotnik, and I don't know, Ben Kingsley to be Ronald Reagan. I don't know who else.
I actually thought you were going to say, like, in Star Wars, where they get, like, Admiral Tarkin,
No.
or sorry, Grand Moff Tarkin, is like the horrible CGI.
Yes, that's even better. CGI Ronald Reagan. Reagan is the final hazard. I love it.
I mean, we have played Call of Duty Cold
That's
War.
true.
We can see how realistic he
That's
looks.
true. Even did the voice down.
Yeah, so we've got the assets there. So does that mean Ronald Reagan ordered a hit on Gerald Robotnik?
It could be Ronald Reagan's final and greatest acting role.
See, of all the tangents in this episode, do we really bring Ronald Reagan, like, authorising the shooting of space children into this?
We did indeed.
Oh, slap that in a happy. Da-da-da-da-da. It's happy.
Marie is dead.
So, our fan theories aside, what are your hopes for the sequel going forward?
As I say, I don't think I have a complete, I want to see this exact thing. What I would say is I hope they, keep doing these characters justice and any new ones they introduce. But as well, I really would like to see them focus much more on the animated characters and on, Team Sonic and the like. And, we can lessen down, we can very much cut down, I think, the live action cast and just, have some do cameos, whatever, have Agent Stone or whatever, maybe have a bigger role, that's fine. But really, I think the time is right now to focus on the animated characters and really make them the sole focus. And, keep kind of drawing from the games, because there's a wealth of, and just say the games, the comics, the TV shows, because there's a wealth of material out there and some great stories to draw on. So I think keep the fan service going. Please bring in the music. That's the one thing. Please start incorporating the music, because that's what feel like that's what this series is really missing so far. I feel like it's the one missing piece to really tie it all together in this kind of perfect package.
We just want to see Live and Learn in live action.
Is that so much to ask?
Answer us, you cowards! Oh no, our tweets are useless. Fall back. I honestly hope that I do agree with you in terms of the cutting back the human cast, or as you said, the live action cast. It feels as if they're getting less relevant now, which to me personally, I feel as if that's a good thing. But then there's a kind of maybe there might be a worry in Paramount. As I said, I'm not an expert marketing or anything. I'm just a humble Sonic fan. But I feel as if they include too much Sonicness, if that makes sense, then it might alienate broader audiences, and I don't know how much fan service they're going to try and balance versus having a story that everybody can enjoy. Because as I said, the worst bits for me personally were the bits that didn't really relate to Sonic or kind of went on for too long. But for example, as I said, the wedding scene, there were loads of adults that enjoyed that, so I doubt they're going to take it away 100%, but I feel as if they're going to make them a bit more goofier. We no longer have the US military. We have Gun. Oh, Jesus, I can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, we have Gun now. If they are going to adapt Cheryl's story, I hope they take a leaf out of Sonic Adventure 2. It's going to be interesting, because do you know what my main fear is? I hope to God that if they do this, they won't adapt Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 together.
That's a lot.
That is a worry, because I feel as if they're really going to be balls to the wall crazy, they would have Chaos as the main villain instead of the Final Hazard, or the Bio Lizard, which I hope that's not the direction to go in.
That's too much.
There's no evidence to support that, by the way. I'm just throwing that out. But if they did, I feel as if that would be a major mistake. But I just want to see the Bio Lizard. One thing I want to point out, I don't want to end on a negative note, but one thing I would say going forward is I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel as if this film gave away far too much in the trailer. Did you feel as if it was a bit too... It gave away the best bits of the film too early?
I think definitely. I feel like that's just a problem with trailers now. I feel that they really do. They are so concerned, about getting people in, getting bums in the seats and everything, that they don't really care. They don't really care so much about, leaving surprises. They just want to draw people in. And so they just cram all the kind of best bits in. And it does take away, certainly. So, no, I agree. But again, I think cynical about. I think it's just a Hollywood thing now. It's just, get eyes on the product however we can.
I mean, maybe, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's probably more a filming faux pas rather than like a Sonic issue, but I don't know, maybe I'm to blame for, watching so much of it, but I felt as if whenever you saw it, it showed you the Death Egg robot, it showed you Eggman actually getting the emerald, using those powers, it showed you Sonic fighting Knuckles twice and everything. It just showed a bit too much. And I honestly thought the wedding scene was going to be like quite early on, like maybe in the first act, but then we had to wait like a whole 2 acts before it kind of concluded, and you're like, okay, but I've already seen this in the trailer, I know what's going to happen, I know there's no tension for Tom to find the rings because I've seen him throw the ring, so it's like, oh well. But yeah, hopefully going forward they'll maybe be a bit more scarce, but again, that's not like against the film itself, it's probably more against Hollywood being Hollywood, as it were. But honestly, if I could like say one last thing just about the film in general, if you haven't seen it, then why are you listening to this review? Please go watch it. But if you have watched it, like, please let us know what you think of it, because we honestly, if you want to, contact us through our website, Chatsunami, or you want to DM me on Twitter, or you want to tweet at us, then yeah, please do let us know what you think about it. But Adam, do you have any final comments about the film?
I'd just say this film's a lot of fun. Like the first film, it's a lot of fun. There's lots of laughs to be had. There's great action. The characters are fun, and so yeah, I would recommend seeing it. Like it's a lot of it's just a lot of fun. It's a fun way to spend a couple hours. You could do far more worse things. So I'd recommend go seeing it.
Don't worry, guys, because we will. Yeah, hopefully next week we will be going on to something a bit more different. I feel as if this is kind of the perfect last episode for kind of Sonic topics. Not forever. We're not doing a Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, whereas I guess we were wrong about those Chatsunami people. Let us pay homage to the Chatsunami podcast.
Wait a minute, I found some notes here. So 50 years ago, it looks like Pierce Brosnan agreed to play Gerald Robotnik. I've got his signature and everything.
Oh my god. We can only dream. Mr. Brosnan, if you are listening. Yeah, please get back to us. Let us know what you think.
Imagine this happens. If this happens, I am going to take the recording of this episode and distribute it like some crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist.
I mean, to be fair, we do have a year for this to happen.
I'm going to demand a cut of the profits if this what happens. I was the first one.
We need this So it's just that mental image of you outside Paramount Studios. It's just like, give us a Gerald Robotnik cut.
God. Oh.
I know I've brought this up before, but it's like, that meme of the girl crying. It's like, please, Adam, don't go to try and get your cut of the film. And it's just you with the Chad face going, I must do this to honour Gerald Robotnik.
I love when we make political commentary, but through Gerald Robotnik and Gunn.
It's the only way nowadays. I mean, I feel as if every single other avenue of commentary is being taken
pretty much
and redundant.
We found the only pure strain left.
It's like interpretive dance.
I love it.
But not so much for us, more for terrible takes. On that note, thank you, Adam, for subjecting yourself to the film, and thank you for coming on this episode.
No, you're more than welcome. I said I had an absolute blast watching it, and I'm glad that I was able to get a bit more well versed before going into it, because I think it really helped. It really helped enjoy it, so it was my pleasure to watch it.
And honestly, guys, if you're a Sonic fan, there will definitely be something here for you. And if you're not, well, I think you'll still enjoy it for what it is. Unless you're the New Yorker. I think it was the New York Post who said that Sonic has nowhere to go from this one. But again, different strokes for different folks.
Let me tell you about a girl called Maria.
Yeah, Maria's the key to all of this. If we could get Maria Robotnik, let's get this trending. Hashtag Maria and the Sonic.
Hashtag Pierce Brosnan to play Maria Robotnik.
Okay, this is my only caveat before we finish. Maria Robotnik, if the only way she can speak is if she sings ABBA songs.
Love it.
We've seen him do it. We've seen Pierce Brosnan do it, okay?
It's true, he has great range, that man.
Do you know what? Why isn't this the Sonic 3 film? This is my new conspiracy, okay? Sonic has 2 films. Mamma Mia has 2 films. What if we cross the 2 together?
God. god, I love it.
Mamma Maria.
Mamma Maria, oh my god. Get on Paramount right now. I hope they own the Mamma Mia rights. If this happens, I will literally, I think I will just ascend to heaven. I think you'll have to find a new co-host. That'll be the end for me.
Breaking news, Sandwich ascends to heaven. Achieves enlightenment. You do realise that I now have to get a picture of that commissioned of just like you, but with like 50 arms in a Zen position.
Put my transformation into a deity.
You know that way when, and I know this is completely off topic, but you know that way when you hear about certain deities, ascending, and it was because they did like great acts. And then they come to you and they say, how did you ascend to enlightenment? And it was like, well, I watched this film where they combined Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Mamma Mia.
Get the man sated. Get the sandwich sated now.
Anyway, if you'd like to hear about our new religion, go to www.saintlysandwiches.co. And again, I'm completely joking if that is a real website. Please, for legal reasons, this is a joke. Don't follow that website. But anyway, I'm going to go and write up some legal documents for starting a religion. So... What can I say?
That panda lawyer busy.
Yeah, that panda lawyer is furiously giving me the Paddington hard stare right now. He is not happy. He is an angry panda.
It's like, objection. Please, for the love of God, don't do this.
But on that note, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to hear more of our absolutely crazy content, you can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube as well, and really any good podcast app. Just look for the red panda under the name Chatsunami, and we will see you there. But until then, guys, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, and do you want to finish us off, Adam?
Let us pay homage to Gerald Robotnik.
Hashtag Pierce Brosnan for Sonic 3.